Committee will come to order. I ask unanimous consent that the chair may declare recess at any point. Without objection, so ordered. Also, without objection, members shall have 5 legislative days to submit written remarks and additional materials for the record. I want to thank our witnesses for appearing today and for your service to our nation. The threats we face are more formidable than at any point in the last 20 years. But the administration's policy of integrated deterrence is doing little to actually deter them. The president's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan has left us nearly blind in the worst terrorist hotspot on the globe. North Korea is lobbing ICBMs over Japan and threatening us with nuclear annihilation on a near weekly basis. And Iran continues to fund and equip terrorists targeting Americans. Last week, 1 American died and 7 were wounded when the Ayatollah's terrorist proxies attacked our base in Syria. We continue to sit by and watch as his regime aggressively pursues nuclear weapons. Undersecretary Call last month stated that the Ayatollah is 12 days away from having enough fissile material for a nuclear bomb. We absolutely cannot allow that to happen. Additionally, the Ayatollah is exporting kamikaze drones and other advanced weapons to Russia, and Putin is using them to kill innocent civilians and further his brutal invasion in Ukraine. Putin is also threatening our NATO allies by deploying tactical nuclear weapons to Belarus, stepping away from New START and stepping up his harassment of American forces in Eastern Europe and Syria. But most concerning is the strengthening alliance between Putin and Xi. Putin is literally fueling the Chinese Communist Party's strategic nuclear breakout with Rosatom highly enriched uranium, in what the former STRATCOM commander Richardson described as breathtaking. The CCP has doubled their number of nuclear warheads in just 2 years. The CCP is starting to outpace us on the battlefield as well. The CCP has leapfrogged us on hypersonic technology. They are fielding what we are still developing. And their rapid advances in space were one of the primary reasons we established the Space Force. We all know the CCP is not building these new and advanced military capabilities for self-defense. We watch their ongoing attempts to intimidate and coerce Taiwan and our allies and partners in the region. Just this week, they threatened the Navy with serious consequences after we exercised our right to sail through international waters in South China Sea. And we've heard from combatant commanders over the past month about how the CCP has used economic coercion to gain footholds on new continents. We also heard from their efforts to expand their military presence in Africa and sign a new security agreement in South America and the Middle East. Finally, we all know from the spy balloon incident that Xi and CCP are no longer hesitant to make provocative actions against the American homeland. These are just a few of the growing threats confronting our nation. How we respond to them is the biggest test that we face as Americans. Many of us here, regardless of party, believe we should respond with sustained investment in the men and women of our armed services and the modernization of our conventional and strategic deterrent. These investments are going to be expensive, but neither the President nor Congress can shy away from them. We no longer have the luxury of time. As we speak, our adversaries are rapidly expanding their military capability, showing much less restraint in employing these capabilities against America and our allies, and worst of all, developing a powerful alliance, the likes of which we haven't confronted since the height of the Cold War. We need to make the right investments in the right capabilities to ensure our military can effectively deter and, if necessary, defeat our adversaries. I look forward to working with all of you on this effort. And with that, I yield to my friend, the ranking member, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank our witnesses, Chairman Milley and Secretary Austin, not just for being here today, but for their leadership and their career of service to our country. Appreciate all of your efforts. I also want to note that this is Chairman Milley's last posture hearing before he retires, and really want to thank him for his service. And most specifically, Chairman Milley has shown a willingness to engage with Congress that has been quite refreshing for me serving. It's always a difficult task. The Pentagon has their job, we have our job, but those two jobs intersect within our Constitution, within our democracy, and I have never worked with a member of the Pentagon who's been more willing and to engage with Congress, certainly to appear before us, but also to meet with us, take our phone calls whenever, because he recognizes the incredibly important role that Congress plays and the oversight role that we must play with DOD. So I thank you for that, and I thank you very much for your service. As the chairman laid out, we have an incredibly complicated and dangerous threat environment. There is no question about that. But I do believe that the National Defense Strategy lays out a vision for how to confront that. We can't make China go away. We can't make any of those things that the chairman just talked about go away. We have to figure out, how do we deal with them? How do we deter our adversaries? And what is our central goal? Our central goal is a rules-based international order where sovereign nations resolve their differences through international organizations peacefully. That's what we're trying to do. Now we have folks out there in Russia and China and elsewhere, again, as the chairman outlined, that want to blow that up. They want to challenge that. We have to be in a position to deter that. That certainly starts with having a robust and strong military. We've had the largest defense budgets we've ever seen the last 2 years. The president has just proposed, again, the largest defense budget we've ever seen. We are making that investment. I will spare you the long speech that many of you have heard from me before about how I'm more focused on how we're spending the money, making sure that we're spending it efficiently and effectively. It's always the easiest thing to fall back on and say, gosh, we got to have more money. Everything I've ever dealt with, that's been the answer. But again, I will quote, I think it's Winston Churchill, I could be wrong, who said, gentlemen, we're out of money, now we have to think. And that's what I really want to focus on. Where are we spending the money and where are we going? What is the objective? Huge part of that objective. We are not going to be able to deter those adversaries that the chairman just laid out on our own. It's an absolute impossibility. We need partnerships and we need allies. And I want to thank Secretary Austin in particular for his outstanding work on helping to build and hold together the coalition that is supporting Ukraine. 54 nations. I think a lot of people accept that as a foregone conclusion. It was not. And it was not easy. It took the leadership of this administration, particularly the leadership of Secretary Austin, to pull it together and help Ukraine. We cannot forget that most people assumed that Ukraine would be taken over by Russia by now. Their incredible will to fight, their courage to stand up has been an inspiration to the world, but it would not have been possible without the support of that international coalition that we helped build. At the same time, we're also building those coalitions to deal with the threat from China that, again, the chairman, I think, did a great job of explaining that threat. But the AUKUS agreement, bringing UK and Australia in, the Quad, where we work with Japan, India, and Australia. We have recently seen Japan step up significantly in terms of the amount of money that they're spending on their defense to be an able partner in that part of the world. We have now an expanded military relationship with the Philippines, a relationship that at the beginning of this administration was very much in question. It was very much in question whether or not the Philippines would go over to China or help us. They're helping us. Building that coalition is a crucial part of how we meet those national security needs that have been laid out before us today. Just a couple of other issues. One is recruitment and retention. A big challenge. I think everyone knows that we are not meeting our goals at the moment, but I think there's a couple important things about that. One, the pandemic had a profound impact on that. We have not been able to recruit effectively for 2 or 3 years. We are now stepping back up and doing that. And also, I've had conversations with Secretary Austin about this. He has experience with this. This is not the first time that the U.S. military has struggled to meet recruitment goals. We have experience in terms of how to make changes and do that. I know that the Secretary is working on that. I look forward to hearing from him about the details of that important issue. And the last thing is something that the Chairman and I 100% agree on. Innovation is the key to meeting that threat environment. We have to be able to develop and quickly field new technologies that help us meet our defense needs. And we got a lot of work to do in that area. The Pentagon has never been built for speed. And in this era with AI, machine learning, and all the new technologies that are coming on board, we need to be able to access those quickly and figure out how to use them quickly. So I look forward to hearing from our witnesses about the steps that have been taken to change the way the Pentagon does business so we can do that more quickly. Without question, we have an incredibly complex threat environment. But I want to say unequivocally, I know that we can meet it. I know that we have a capable Congress, a capable administration, and crucially capable partners the world over. We can help maintain the peace and meet our national defense needs. I have no doubt about that. And with that, I look forward to the testimony from our witnesses, and I yield back to the chairman.
I thank the ranking member. Our witnesses today are the Honorable Lloyd Austin, Secretary of Defense, and General Mark Milley, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Accompanying the Secretary and Chairman is the Honorable Mike McCord, Undersecretary of Defense. He serves as the DOD's Comptroller and Chief Financial Officer. So welcome to the witnesses. Secretary Austin, we'll start with you.
Well, thank you, Chairman Rogers. Chairman and Ranking Member Smith, distinguished members of the committee, I'm glad to be here with you today to testify in support of the President's budget request.
Gentlemen, will suspend. We need to get the protesters to take their signs down or be removed from the room. The chair notes that the disturbance of the committee's proceedings is taking place. The committee will be in order. I'd like to formally request that those in the audience causing this disruption cease their actions immediately. I want to advise the protesters or the folks in the audience, if you do this again, we are going to recess and you are going to be removed. Mr. Secretary, you're recognized.
Chairman Rogers, Ranking Member Smith, distinguished members of the committee, I'm glad to be here today to testify in support of the President's budget request for fiscal year 2024. I'm joined, as always, by General Milley, and I remain grateful for his leadership. And I'm also glad to be joined by the department's Comptroller and CFO, Mike McCord. This is a strategy-driven budget and one driven by the seriousness of our strategic competition with the People's Republic of China. At $842 billion, it is a 3.2% increase over fiscal year 23 enacted, and it is 13.4% higher than fiscal year 22 enacted. This budget will help us continue to implement our national defense strategy and the President's national security strategy. Now, I have three key priorities at the Pentagon: to defend our nation, to take care of our outstanding people, and to succeed through teamwork. The PRC is our pacing challenge, and we're driving hard to meet it. Our budget builds on our previous investments to deter aggression, and we're investing in a more resilient force posture in the Indo-Pacific and increasing the scale and scope of our exercises with our partners. And this budget includes a 40% increase over last year's request for the Pacific Deterrence Initiative. It is an all-time high of $9.1 billion. And that will fund a stronger force posture, better defenses for Hawaii and Guam, and deeper cooperation with our allies and partners. Now, this budget also makes the department's largest ever investments in both R&D and procurement. We're requesting more than $61 billion to sustain air dominance. And that includes funding for fighters and the extraordinary B-21 strategic bomber that I helped unveil last December. We're also seeking more than $48 billion for sea power, including new construction of 9 Battle Force ships. And we're boosting capacity at America's shipyards to build the ships that our strategy demands. We're investing a total of $1.2 billion in the submarine industrial base. And we're buying 2 Virginia-class attack submarines and 1 Columbia-class ballistic missile submarine. On land, we're investing in air and missile defense and in defenses to counter unmanned aerial vehicles. We're also requesting $11 billion to deliver the right mix of long-range fires, including major investments in hypersonics. We'll also continue to modernize all 3 legs of our nuclear triad and bolster our strategic deterrence. And we put forward the largest space budget in Pentagon history. We've requested $33.3 billion to improve our capabilities and our resilience in space. Now, let me again thank Congress for providing the department with multi-year procurement authorities and appropriations for critical munitions. In this budget, we're requesting more multi-year procurement authorities. And we're asking for more than $30 billion to further invest in the industrial base and to buy the maximum number of munitions that American industry can produce. This budget also moves us away from aging capabilities that aren't relevant to future conflicts, so we can focus on the advances that our warfighters will need. Now, our national defense strategy calls out Putin's highly aggressive Russia as an acute threat. And under President Biden's leadership, the United States has rallied the world to help Ukraine fight Russia's indefensible invasion. We've reinforced NATO's defense and deterrence on its eastern flank, and our allies and partners have provided crucial security assistance coordinated through the Ukraine Defense Contact Group that I lead. And we will support Ukraine's defense for as long as it takes. And meanwhile, the department remains vigilant against other persistent threats, including North Korea and Iran. And we will take all necessary measures to defend our troops and our interests overseas, as seen in our recent airstrikes against facilities linked to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And we're also investing in over-the-horizon counterterrorism capabilities. And Mr. Chairman, our joint force stands ready to meet any challenge, and you could see the force's readiness after Russia's unprovoked invasion of Ukraine, when we swiftly deployed elements of the 3rd Infantry Division to Poland to shore up NATO's eastern flank. We closely monitor readiness at the unit level and maintain response forces at our highest states of readiness, while the rest of the force, by design, is preparing for future contingencies. So this budget will help us maintain our readiness with $146 billion in funding for operations, training, and maintenance. This budget also invests in improving our readiness and resilience in the face of climate change and other 21st century threats. And Mr. Chairman, we're going to remain the strongest military in the world, and as we mark the 50th anniversary of our all-volunteer force, I am enormously proud of the brave men and women who choose to wear the cloth of our nation. We owe it to them and to their families to take the best possible care of all of our people. And over the past 2 years, we've made moves easier, we've cut commissary prices, we've made child care more affordable. And this budget funds other key steps to increase the quality of life of our teammates, including the largest military and civilian pay raises in decades. Now, we're also pushing hard to eliminate suicide in our ranks, including immediate steps to hire more mental health professionals and to improve access to mental health care. And meanwhile, we're working toward a military that's free of sexual assault. We worked with Congress to improve the response to sexual assault and related crimes under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Those reforms will be fully implemented by the end of this year. And the department is also investing in a specialized workforce to combat sexual assault, harassment, suicide, and more. Now, the department's 3rd priority is succeeding through teamwork. Our unrivaled network of allies and partners magnifies our power and expands our security. And in recent months, our friends in the Indo-Pacific have taken major steps forward. The Philippines has agreed to nearly double the number of sites where we can cooperate together. Japan committed to double its defense spending, and through the historic AUKUS partnership, we'll work with our Australian and British allies to build game-changing defense advantages that will deter aggression and boost our defense industrial capacity. In sum, Mr. Chairman, this is the budget that will meet this moment, and I respectfully request your support. The single most effective way that this committee can support the department and our outstanding troops is with an on-time, full-year appropriation. So I look forward to working with all of you so that we can continue to defend our democracy and support the forces of freedom in this hour of challenge. Thank you, Mr.